Measuring the center of data. In this section, we're going to look at the three main statistics we use to look at the middle of data. So see what most of our data is doing. Most of the stuff you've been learning since like second grade. So like the first one here is mode, right? I like to say the most often digit, right? So most often digit. You could go ever. So this is one that pops up the most, right? If I have 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1 will be the mode because there's two ones. If it's in like a set like from 0 to 1, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, and then you have 4. This happens 5 times. This happens 2 times. We'll call this the modal class. We talked about that last time. Next up is mean, also known as average, right? So the mean is the average. There's a couple of formulas here. This is the one that you can see in your formula set. Don't be scared, right? First of all, that symbol means mean. X with a line over it. Don't forget E means sum. So it's the sum of the F is frequency. Sum of the frequencies times the X value over the sum of the frequencies. Basically means what it says right here. It's the sum of all the data, the total data, over the number of data, gets you the average. Just like we've been doing in grade school. And that's mean. Lastly, we have the median, also known as the middle. I always think about it just by if I write it out. There's like that in lowercase, I'm like, hey, that's the middle. And that's important because that's what the median measures. It's the middle data, right? So if we have like 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 things. So there's actually no middle. The middle is in between these two. And when you have it like that, you just average them out. So 2 plus 3 divided by 2 is 2.5. That's the median. If I have an odd number set, like on a 2, 3, 5, the median will just be a 3, the middle number. Now when it gets longer in the data, we can use this formula, n plus 1 over 2. All that means is that's not the answer, but that's that term. So over here we had 6 numbers, right? So it'll be 6 plus 1 over 2, so 7 over 2. So that's the 3.5th term, which is in between 3 and 4. So 2.5. Right, if I did it here, 1, 2, 3, so 3 plus 1 over 2. So the second term, which was 3. So that's how I use that formula. That's very important when we start talking about like frequency and it gets a lot more complicated. But that's median. Okay, now let's look over some examples. So look at this first one here. The number of faulty products returned to electrical goods store over a 21-day period. So that just means the first day, 3 products returned, the second day, 4 products returned, third day, 4 products returned, etc. So you get to the 21st day. So you already know there's 21 days, 21 numbers. So if I want to find the mean, I'm not going to bore you and write it all out, but all you do is add them all up and divide by 21. And you get 5.38. If you want to find the median, right? Median is the middle one. Now that's a little trickier. You got to put them in order. That's very important with the median. Right? You can't just count this. You can't just count this and like, oh, it's 9. You got to put them in order from lowest to greatest, and they did it here. And you get the 11th term, or 5. If you use the formula we were talking about earlier, that n plus 1 over 2 formula, you would get 21 plus 1 over 2, which is 22 over 2, or the 11th term. So you can just count to 11, or you can just like do the baby method where you cross out each side until you get to the middle term. Well, whatever works. And then the mode, right, the most often digit, you just look at all these numbers here. Looks like 3 is the most, so there's 4 3s. So that'll be the mode. Like that. So we can also do this problem on our calculator. So let me bring over my TI-84 right here. And that's going to help us find the mean, median. It won't find us the mode because they expect you could look at it and tell. But let's set this up. So you're going to go to stat and go to edit. You can type in all the numbers. So 3, 4. And then with Little Movie Magic, boom, all done. So there's all 21 of them typed in. So you guys a little time by not showing me entering them all in. So there's that. So now I have them all in there. So now we're going to get out. Go back to stat. Go to calculate. Now, we're going to use one variable stats because we only have one variable. And in IB, we only ever use one variable stat. So when we're talking about stats, we're going to use some other stuff down here. But when it's out of these two, we only ever use one variable stats. You hit enter. List, I did put under list 1. That's where I have it. Now notice frequency list is very important. Right now it's empty. I want to keep it that way. There's only one list here. In a little bit, in a short while, we'll talk about frequencies, and then we'll add something there. But there's only one list, so I'll do that blank. Go to calculate. Does its work, and you get to see all this. So a couple things right there. That's your mean. So 5.38, just like we got over here. That just means the sum of all your values. So if you add up all those numbers, you get 113. If you sum them squared, that's to do with the standard deviation, which we haven't talked about yet. You get 741. That doesn't matter, right? So one really care about that right there. And then those has to do with standard deviation. We'll talk about that in a second. And it's 21. That means that's how many total numbers we have. Now, if we scroll down, you get some other information. Right? We get the minimum number is 1, which is right there, smallest number they have. The lower quartile is right there. We haven't talked about that yet. Median, upper quartile, and the max is 9. There's our median, 5, just like we got right there. So that's how you do it in your calculator. Let's go through another quick example. So in this one, if 6 people have a mean mass of 53.7, find the total mass. So it has to do with the mean. Now we know how to find the mean. It's the total sum over the total number of values, so the number. In this case, they gave us the mean. So that's 53.7 over here. And it tells us how many values there are. 6. So that's right here. And this is what we're looking for, the total. So that's our equation. 53.7 equals the total over 6. Multiply both sides by 6. And you get some answer equals the total. Okay, with that one down, let's do a slightly harder example. So here we go. Find A given that 3, 0, A, 4, A, 6, A, and 3 have a mean of 4. So it's actually a very similar problem. They give us the mean, they give all these numbers. So remember, it's the total over the total number of items equals the mean. Now we have some of this data. The mean is 4. And the total number of values we have, let's just count them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is going to be 9. So the difficult thing is find the total, which, well, add them all up. That's how you find the total. So 3 plus 0 plus A plus 4 plus A plus 6 plus A plus 3. If you simplify all that, it looks like you get 7, 10, 16 plus 4A all over 9 equals 4. Multiply both sides by 9. You get 16 plus 4A equals 36. Minus 16. 4 equals 20. So A equals 5. Pretty straightforward. Another quick mini example, just get off my chest real quick. A sample of 10 measurements have a mean of 5.7, and a sample of 20 measurements has a mean of 14.3. Find the mean of all 30 measurements. Students hate this type of problem. They always get it wrong. So the key is treat them separately. We have this one, where the total over 10 measurements equals 15.7. Right? The average is 15.7. Our general formula is total over number equals the mean. Then here we have the total of 10 things over 10 equals 15.7. And on this side, same idea with the total, which we don't really know yet, over 20 items, equals 14.3. Now let's find the total of each one. In this case, we multiply by 20. So it's going to be 2860 or 286. Sorry. Oh, do the same thing here, multiply by 10, and you're going to get the total equals 157. So if you want to find the total of all 30 instruments, you have to add these two things together. add that total with this total. So we're going to get 157 plus 286 all over 30, and whatever that turned out to be is our mean. That's the idea, right? So over here, so for this one, let's find the total of that one. Total of over 10 equals 15.7, multiplied by 10, you get the total of the 10 measurements. Same concept over here. You get the total of 20 measurements, total over 20 equals 14.3, multiplied by 20, you get the total of the 20 measurements. Add those two totals up, divided by 30, and you get the mean for the whole thing. Now let's talk about what a frequency does to our sensor data. So the first thing you notice, it makes the mode really easy to find, right? So like, look at this. Oh, the mode is 7. Done. 7 has the most values, 15 of them. Now it does make the median a lot tougher, right? Because I can't just go count out, cross out first and last. There's a big old bunch of, there's a lot of numbers here, 40 of them to be in fact. So this is where you want to use the formula, n plus 1 over 2. Now there's 40 numbers total, because that's the total frequency. So you get 40 plus 1 over 2, and you get 20.5, like they did there. Now very important, this 20.5 term. It's not the answer. My answer is not 20.5, it's not the median. It's that the mean has to be one of these numbers here. So you gotta figure out what the 20.5 term is. Easiest way to do on this is do a cumulative frequency graph. Cumulative frequency chart. So right, the way that works, if you're a little recall, there's 1, 3, so you have 1 total. There's 1, 4, so now I have a total of 2, it's like a running total. And then you add, basically you're gonna add 2 to 3, and you're gonna get 5 total now. 5 to 7, I'm gonna get 12, plus the 15, 27, plus the 8, 35, and plus the 5, 40. Now I'm trying to figure out where the 20.5 term fell. Well, think about it. At the end of 6, I was at 12. At the end of 7, I was at 27. So it fell somewhere in between here. It's one of the 7s. So 7s also are median. Again, right, the way that worked, because at 3 I only had 1 number. At 4 I had 2 numbers. At 5 I had 5 numbers total. At the end of 6 I had 12 numbers. At the end of 7 I had 27. So right where I had 6s, I was 12, but then I had a bunch of 7s. Right, and this was 27. So the 20.5 term fell somewhere in between here, which is my answer for that. The mean, this is where you can really use the formula from the formula sheet. Right, so again, don't get freaked out by that. All that's saying is you have to multiply the frequency, f, times the x value there. So over here would be 3 times 1, and 4 times 1, and 5 times 3, and 6 times 7, yada yada. And then you divide it by total frequency. So you divide all that by 40, because my total frequency is 40. So once you multiply all those together, add them up, that'll be on top, divide the 2, and that gets you your mean. That's how you use the formula. Let's do an example. So I'm gonna do 2 ways. I'll do it by hand first, and then I'll show you how to do it with the calculator. So the mean, right, so the first one, A, the mean, if you want to use the formula, that is x of line over equals E f x over, it's a terrible f, and then x, sum of the frequencies. Right, so f times x just multiplies. It's going to be 1 times 4 plus 2 times 11 plus 3 times 18 plus 4 times 13 plus 5 times 7 and a repetitive plus 6 times 2. That's all that top part means, right? F, the frequencies times the x values up there, then add them up. The E means add. And divide it by the total frequency, which is going to be 4, just add up all the frequencies, plus 11, plus 18, plus 13, plus 7, plus 2. And then divide those two answers together, you get your mean. And that's going to be 55 on the bottom. That's some number over 55, whatever that turned out to be. Now B is we need to find the median. So again, with the huge list of numbers like that, you want to use the formula. N plus 1 over 2. In this case, that'll be 55 because n is a total number right there. Plus 1 over 2, which is going to be 56 divided by 2, or 28th. 28th term. Again, that's not the answer. I actually got to find 28th term. I still think the easiest way to do this is just make kind of a cumulative frequency chart. I'm going to kind of go sideways here because I say space. So one ace happens 4 times, so our total is 4. And then we have 2 aces happens 11 times, so you just add these two, 4 plus 15. Then you add that to 18, so 33. Add another 13, so my running total now is gonna be 46. Add that to 7, so that's gonna be 53, and then add the 2 and you get 55. Now again, I'm looking for the 28th term. So again, think about it this way. Once you're done with all the ones, you have 4 numbers. Once you're done with all the 2s, you have 5 numbers. Sorry, once you're done with all the 2s, you have 15 numbers total. Once you're done with all the 3s, you have 33 numbers. So the 28th term must fall right there at 3. Because again, the whole idea is like you have 1, 1, 1, 1, then you have 2s. But at the end of the 2s, you're at 15. At the end of the 1s, you're at 4. Then you had a bunch of 3s. And at the end of it, you're at 33. So 28 must have fell somewhere within the 3s. That's what that one works. And then C here, find the mode. Easiest thing in the world, just look at that one that has the most values, frequencies. That is 3 also. So that's how I do it by hand. Now let's do this with the calculator. So I'm bringing my handy dandy calculator over here. Let me clear off this what we did earlier. So I want to type that all in there. So I'm going to use this as like line 1. That's an L1. And L2. Okay, that's terrible. Well, L1 and L2. We'll just... Fregoso, don't ever try to write with the mouse. So, stat edit. Now the easiest way to clear this is just go to L1 and put clear. Don't press delete, put clear. Right, then type in the new data. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6. Sorry about that. Then type in the frequency under L2. 4, 11, 18, 13, 7, and 2. Now we're gonna do the same thing we did before. We're gonna get out and go to stat. So quit. Then set stat. Now I'm gonna go over to calculate. And again, we still, even though there's 2 sets of data, we still use 1 variable stats. We only have 1 variable we're talking about here. Now my list is L1. My frequency, I actually have one of those now. Look at that frequency list. So you gotta make sure you put L2 there. Lots of ways to do it. Second L2 is probably the easiest. Right there. Then you go to calculate. And look at, they give you the mean, 3.25. So I didn't write that down earlier, but now we know 3.25 is the mean. They give you, if you want to find the median, you can just scroll down. You don't do all that work we did earlier. The median right there is 3, just like we got. And again, they don't tell you the mode. You just gotta look at it yourself and not be blind. Okay, 18. And that's how you do it with your calculator. Now let's go over one final type of way they could give you a problem with frequency. That's what mid-intervals. So if you look at the example here, they give you a range for your x values. They don't give you a single number, they give you a range. Now it looks a lot scarier than it is. Actually, all you do to figure out to type this in your calculator, do it by hand, is you just find the midpoints. That's what they call them, the mid-intervals. The midpoints are mid-intervals. Don't ever use the mouse for Goso. So over here we have the age, right? So you have 21 and 25. So you want to find the midpoint between those two. 21 plus 25 divided by 2. Or just, 23. 26 and 30, it's 28. 28. 31, 35 is 33. Right? Again, you can always just add them up and divide by 2 if you're not sure. You can get 76 divided by 2 or 38. Alright, so that's for this one. 43, 48, and 53. And those are your x's. Like, other than that, it's the exact same thing. Right? I should put L1 instead of x. That should be L1 and L2. Right? So that's the only difference. And they did it down here for us. Right? So here's the age. We're not going to use that. We're going to use the midpoint value as our L1. And we'll use the frequency as the L2 when we put it on our calculator. Or if you want to do it by hand. And you get this for your mean. Remember, this would have a modal class if we asked about the mode, which would just be the most one. So modal class would be 31, 35 because it's a range. But that's how you do it. So anytime you get an interval for your x values, just use the midpoint. Very simple, right? So if I see this, just use that. There we go. We're done with this lesson.